Hello, my name is Sonia Jethani, Director of Financial Aid and Scholarships here at East Bay, coming to you today to talk about some important deadlines and our go live dates for some applications that are coming up for the 2022-2023 academic year. So some important announcements: the 2022-2023 California Dream Act application, the FAFSA application, and our Chafee grant application for foster youth will come live October 1, 2021 for the application for financial aid for the 2022-2023 school year. Our Pioneer Scholarship application will be available November 1, 2021. And most scholarships will have a deadline of March 2, 2022. However, we also hold a lot of external scholarships for those. So for those students out there who are applying to East Bay, once you receive your net ID, these students will be able to apply to our institutional scholarships at East Bay through our Pioneer Scholarship application. Now, a summary of our financial aid components. We offer few grants and scholarships through the FAFSA and CADA application. The federal Pell Grants, the federal SEOG grants are actually specifically for those students who submit the FAFSA application. However, the Educational Opportunity Grant Program, the Cal Grant A or B, the Middle Class Scholarship, the State University Grant, and the Chafee Grant will also be considered for those students who submit the California Dream Act application. Those students who submit the FAFSA application who indicate that they are interested in federal work study and submit their FAFSA as soon as possible, as early as possible. In fact, October 1 would be preferable because the campus funding is actually very limited on federal work study funds. So it's very important that they know that if they are interested in federal work study, that they submit their FAFSA application as soon as possible, because we do have to award on a first come, first served basis. This actually also applies for those students interested in receiving the Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. The Federal Work Study Fund is paid via payroll. It is not something that the students will be able to use towards their bill. That is unless when they receive their pay, they can actually apply it or pay the Office of Student Financial Services directly through that. They do have to find a job on campus. We also offer off-campus jobs with our off-campus partners. The amount paid is according to the general pay rate. It's typically minimum wage or a little higher than that, and is according to the amount of hours that they work. Now, one important thing to note about the federal work study is that the students are not allowed to work more than 20 hours a week. Another type of financial aid is federal loans. For those students who submit the FAFSA application, they will be considered for a combination of the subsidized loan or the unsubsidized loan, depending on their eligibility. The Federal Direct Plus loan is available to graduate students as well as the parents of dependent students. We also offer DREAM loans for students who submit the California Dream Act application. Now, a little note about the AB 540 affidavit. It's really important that the student submit an AB 540 affidavit in order to be eligible for any type of financial aid here at East Bay. Setting aside the scholarships, there are a lot of scholarships that they can submit applications for through our scholarship application portal, the Pioneer Scholarship application. However, if they are interested in receiving grants from the California Student Aid Commission, as well as being considered for the State University grant, it's important that they submit their AB 540 affidavit to the admissions office. Now, the admissions office will also require a copy of the student's transcript. So it's very important that they submit that information to them, because if we don't have that on file, unfortunately, we will not be able to provide these students with their state aid. There are also private loans available for those students who do not have enough federal or state aid to cover their cost of attendance. Now, some award requirements. Every single component of the financial aid offer to the student will come with award requirements. One of them is their enrollment. Now, when we award students, we begin awarding students around mid-March to early April. And when we award them, we assume that they will be enrolled in at least full time. Now that's 12 units. Once we get closer towards the actual school year, however, the students will be able to register and add or drop their classes according to their required courses. Now, if they fall below 12 units, we will need to repackage their financial aid according to the units that they are enrolled. Now, we will be repackaging students' aid every single week up until the term census. So it's really important that they know that every single type of their financial aid comes with requirements. Now, this will come with their financial aid offer letter. For example, the state university grant requires that they are enrolled in at least 6 units. If they are not enrolled in at least 6 units by the time that they register to their classes, they will not be eligible for that fund. The EOP grant is another example where the student is required to be enrolled in 12 units. If the student registers and is not in 12 units, the EOP grant will be canceled. So it's really important that they know this because the offer letter does assume that they will be enrolled in at least full time. Another very important requirement in maintaining the student's financial aid is satisfactory academic progress. The student is required to earn at least 67% of the units that they attempt every semester. They need to maintain a 2.0 grade point average, and they need to have a 2.0 GPA on their second year here at East Bay. Another really big requirement, especially for those students who are transfers here at East Bay, that there is a maximum time frame. Now, for undergraduate students, you are required to have at least 120 units or have earned at least 120 units in order to get your degree. The Federal Student Aid Department or the Department of Education, California Student Aid Commission will allow them up to 150% of that maximum time frame. In other words, 180 units before they are disqualified from financial aid. Now, a little bit of the California Student Aid Commission, it really doesn't, there is a lifetime eligibility of all of the components of their financial aid as well. So it's important that when you're counseling students that you tell them not to waste their time, to take only the courses that they need in order to graduate, because it might be that they might not have enough money towards the end of their school time here at East Bay in order to cover their cost of attendance. So when they come, it's important that they meet with their advisors so that they know what courses they need to take. A little bit about the Cal Grant program. Unfortunately, the university is the last to know when it comes to the requirements that they are asking from the student. So if for those students who are transferring from a community college here in California, for those students who are transferring from a California high school, it's really important that they create an account directly with the California Student Aid Commission. It's called Web Grants for Students, because they might be required to submit verification documents. Unfortunately, a lot of students don't create an account with CSAC, and because of that, they miss out on these reminders of requirements from them. And by the time they reach out to us and we figure out what happens, it can be too late. CSAC is known to recycle funds from students who do not meet the requirements or who end up not meeting the requirements of receiving the state aid. So it's really important that if they want to receive this Cal Grant or they want to receive the MCS or the Chafee Grant, that they create an account through the California Student Aid Commission. The estimated cost of attendance for the 2022-2023 school year will be posted around mid-February of 2022. Now, a little bit about the breakdown of the cost of attendance when you're speaking to a student. It's important to note that this is not their bill. What they are actually going to be billed is a combination of their undergrad tuition and fees and their room and board if they are living on campus. If they are not living on campus, the only bill that they need to be worried about is going to be their tuition fees from the Student Financial Services Department. What is also important, however, is that they take into account the cost of their books and supplies, their food and housing if they're not living on campus, their transportation to and from school, and other miscellaneous and personal costs, like, for example, health services and all of that. Now, the Federal Student Aid Department or the California Student Aid Commission may flag the student's FAFSA or CADA application for a process called verification. Now, it's very important to note that the Financial Aid Office is not allowed to provide a student with an official financial aid offer letter until the verification process is complete. Now, if you have a student who kind of shows you their award letter and the award letter says estimates, that's probably because that they have been flagged for verification either by the state and the feds. And it's really important that they sign up through their Horizon email account so that they see our emails to see what else we will need from them in order for us to be able to package them with their financial aid. Now, what to prepare? If they are flagged for verification, and if they're not, this is actually important to prepare when it comes to submitting the financial aid application. The student will need their 2020 income tax returns. If the student is considered a dependent, they will also need the parents' income tax returns from 2020. If there are any other documentation that the financial aid office needs, we will ask them directly from their electronic portals. So it's important that, again, they sign up and through their Horizon email account, they activate that account, because that is where we will be sending our communications through. Okay. Now, what happens if something happens? Earlier, I talked about how the FAFSA and the CADA applications will require income information from their 2020 tax year. Unfortunately, a lot of things can happen between 2020 and 2022, right? For example, a pandemic, a loss or drastic loss of income or reduction of income, a death of a parent or a spouse that was a main income earner, natural disasters, a divorce that would reduce an income to half, out-of-pocket medical costs that aren't covered by insurance. All of these types of components actually qualify for something called a special circumstance appeal. Now, not all students may benefit from it. For example, if a student submits a FAFSA or CADA application and their expected family contribution as determined by the feds in the state is 0, unfortunately, we are not able to recalculate or re-administer their FAFSA application to get them more aid. Students with an EFC of 0 will actually have had an offer of an award that is at its maximum. We could not increase that. Now, however, those students whose EFCs are not 0, we would urge them to email us or contact the financial aid office to see if we can recalculate their FAFSA or CADA application according to their income status at this point in time. Now, this is not a guarantee that we may be able to get aid, but we would surely like to try. Financial aid administrators are authorized to recalculate the FAFSA or the CADA application to see if a student can get additional aid if we reflect their current income circumstance. So the first thing that we need to do in this case is that the student still has to wait until they get their initial financial aid offer letter. Once they get their initial financial aid, that is when they will need to reach out to us via email, preferably, to request an EFC appeal or a special circumstance appeal. Dependency override is also another special circumstance appeal that a student can submit a request for. Now, this is for students who come from family situations that are unsafe for them. If the student cannot or should not be in contact with their parents and they are considered dependents, the financial aid administrator has the capabilities of overriding their dependency status to make them independent students so that they can get financial aid. Now, again, if you have any other questions or any questions regarding this process, please feel free to email us. Now, what can happen after a special circumstance appeal is that if a student did not initially get a Pell Grant in their offer letter, we may be able to provide them with that after our recalculation. If a student did not get the maximum amount of the Pell Grant, we may be able to increase that amount for them. And we may be able to consider them for the state university grants. For those students who submit the CADA application, the California Dream Act application, we may be able to consider them for the state university grant or one of the many Cal Grants that the State Department offers. Now, as a reminder, this is a yearly application process. Every single year, if a student wants to receive financial aid, they will need to submit a financial aid application every single year. Now, this year is a little bit of an anomaly in that our Pioneer scholarships will go live 1 month later than what we had expected, but it will be live November 1. Usually, however, all applications go live October 1. So the FAFSA application, the California Dream Act application, the Chafee Grant application, as well as the Pioneer Scholarship application does go live October 1 of each year. This year, it will go live November 1. Thank you so much for your time today. And as a reminder, you are all invited to the 2022-2023 FAFSA and CADA workshop that's coming up October 26 through 29. We will also continue our workshops. We'll pick it up where we left off in February of 2022, right before the priority deadline. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Our email address is vinaid@csueastbay.edu. Our phone number is 510-885-2784. If you have students who would like to meet with a counselor and to talk about the financial aid process, please encourage them to email us and request a one-on-one virtual meeting with a financial aid counselor.